Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Know with Dr. Aidoo. I hope you're doing well. So I am excited because we have an interview today, and it is with Philip Wilkerson, who is an industry advisor in the University Career Services Office. And I am excited because I have all kinds of questions for him, and I appreciate him coming. But now I'm going to go to him and begin to ask my questions. So here we go. Hello, Philip.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you for coming, and you need a In the Know welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I am so glad we finally were able to get together and that you're here to answer some questions that we think will be very important to our students. You know, the answers to those questions will be important to our students. I always like to start with, how long have you been at Mason? And could you give us some more details on what your role is at the University Career Services Office?
So, I could give you the long answer and the short answer. So, as I got my actual master's degree from Mason, so the long answer is I've been here quite some time, off and on. I was a student. I graduated with my master's in counseling back in 2012. Particularly, I did my internship, which is ironic, here at University Career Services before I graduated. And then after 2012, I worked in a variety of other offices or universities, higher ed, not higher ed, financial aid, admissions, career services at GW, so different places. But I was very fortunate to come back to Mason December 2017. And so I've been here coming on 5 years, and I'm really excited to be back at Mason at University Career Services. So that was my long, how long have I been here?
Well, no, that's good to know. And as someone who has benefited from you being at Mason, we're glad you came back. Well, go ahead.
And then you asked, I think your second part was, what do I do or what are my roles?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
As you said earlier or asked, I am an industry advisor for media, arts, design, sports and rec, and hospitality and tourism. So it encompasses all those different industries. It's not very intuitive. A lot of people think career counselors. So what I want to explain for industry advisor is that not only do I work with students, but I also work with employers. So it's half student facing, half employer relations. So in regards to students, I help them with their resume, their cover letter, their interview skills, their professional development. I help the students on that part. With the employers, I'm making those connections, making sure that they're coming to campus for career fairs, doing specific programming targeted to those students, and just building that bridge. So I meet with employers, say, hey, we have a lot of Mason talent, connect with our Mason students, post your jobs on Handshake, really try to encourage that engagement with the employers, but also serve the students as well. And as an industry advisor, which I also build connections with my campus partners, such as you, to make sure that I come in the classroom, do speaking engagements, send job postings to them and say, hey, these employers want to hire students. Can you share this with your students and share those postings and that information? So I've kind of just got my hand in different pots.
That's right. Well, and you do it well because you have been really helpful in providing some good resources for our students. So we appreciate that. So now getting into the nitty-gritty a little bit, what are some of so I know you're going to give a general overview of what you do, but as a student come into the Career Services Office, what are some specific services they can, take advantage of?
Well, good question. So one, we make full appointments. So Handshake is where you would make appointments and look at jobs. So you can do one-on-one appointments with people like me, 30 minutes, hour. We really sit down with you or virtually, whatever your preference, and work with you one-on-one. We also offer drop-in hours. So some students say, man, I can't come in certain times. I don't have time to make an appointment. I just need someone to help me real quick. So I believe Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., they can drop in our office, see one of our peer career advisors, which are student workers, and get their resume looked at real quick. So those are some things we do. We also have a variety of resources. So besides Handshake, where you can look at job postings, we have Interview Stream, where, you know, if you're nervous, you want to practice your interview, you use your webcam and you can practice there. And that's a great resource. And then, you know, as I said earlier about the big events, we do career fairs and very large events, you know, career fairs, but also we do small events like information sessions, on-campus interviews. Employers will come, they'll stay in our office, rent a space in our office and do one-on-one interviews throughout the day. So we have a variety of services and we try to meet the students where they are. So those are some of the things that we offer as an office overall, you know, interview, resources, connections to employers, as well as one-on-one coaching / support.
And just to emphasize, the starting point is making the appointment through handshake.
Yes, you know, yeah. And everyone has a handshake account. Just to let students know, it's kind of connected with your Banner account. So you do not need to, you know, add your own. So I believe the website is gmu.joinhandshake.com. When you click on that, it's gonna, it pulls up, it's gonna ask for your net ID and it's gonna bring up to your profile. So you don't have to create anything new. You already, as a Mason student, have access to Handshake.
Oh, that's great to know. And we'll make sure to include that website when we post this interview. Okay, so one of our big questions is about resumes and cover letters. I confess, those are two things that, you know, can be really interesting. So what would you say are some good tips to keep in mind when you're putting together? Let's start with resume and then of course, also your cover letter.
So for a resume, I kind of joke with the students. I say there's only one absolute as it comes to your resume. You know what that one absolute is?
Tell me.
Do not lie, tell the truth.
I thought that was it.
That's it, that's the only absolute. Everything else is tomato, tomato, you know, bullets this way, you know, things like that. There's strong suggestions, no picture. So those are best suggestions and best practices, but there's only one absolute. Tell the truth on your resume. Now, in addition to it, I think the thing I also want to stress of really great importance is there's no such thing as a general resume. Every resume needs to be tailored individually to the opportunity that you're applying to. So when I tell students that, I say, okay, work smarter, not harder. When I say tailor your resume, does not mean you need to start from scratch every single time, but make sure that you adapt the bullet points. Make sure you adapt certain sections in your resume that speak to that employer. So for instance, in your hospitality students, if they say, we want someone with previous event programming or event planning experience, right, where in your resume could you put the word event planning? You know, even as a student leader, I was the event chair for a student org. I planned events, you know, like use those words. Right. And so customization is key. I didn't speak to it, but we do offer another service, which is called Job Scan. And what that does is it allows you as a student or whoever uses Job Scan to beat the system, because we know a lot of resumes are going through what we call automatic tracking systems, ATS. Okay. And so what they do, if a resume says they want these certain skills, they have keywords. And when you upload your resume, they're literally gonna do a word finder. So the best thing to do, use Job Scan, which is a platform where you copy the job posting, you copy your resume on the other side, it gives you like, based on this, you're 80% match. It lets you know the analytics, but customization, I cannot stress that enough. And using action verbs, and there's all these bullet point enhancers, but telling the truth and customizing, I would say, is the ultimate strategy for your resume as well as cover letter. But so when I see a student say, oh, this is my general resume for hospitality, I'm like, no, you need to write a resume, say, this resume is for like resume for Marriott internship. Say that. Okay. And then go through and make sure that the bullets and the experiences are speaking to what they want. As I said, if they say we want someone with leadership skills, where can I say that I was a leader, you know, and throw that in there. So I also, like I said, don't copy and paste. Like I'm not telling you to copy and paste the job description. Right. Be very thoughtful and put the words that in those relevant experiences as best you can.
So try to match your experience to what they're looking for. May I ask again, the Job Scan, how can students have access?
So it's a link on our website.
Okay.
I don't have it. It's like jobscan.gmu. It's on our website. I'll send it to you post interview, and then students will sign up for JobScan.
Okay.
It's a platform that our office paid for,
Okay.
and they will get a 6-month premium account for JobScan. And so it's a platform that we bought that we give to the students to use. And I've used it myself for awards and stuff. You know, I've used it to like tailor, because it also, you can tailor your resume, as well as you can copy and you can upload like a PDF of your LinkedIn account. And it's just basically saying optically, what kind of employers is your LinkedIn profile attracting? So you can use JobScan even on your LinkedIn profile.
That is such an amazing tool. And thank you so much. We will make that information available to our students. So then on, behind that, how about the cover letter?
Same thing, customization.
Okay.
I think, I will say these are some other suggestions that I have. So in your intro paragraph, obviously start strong with the introduction about who you are, but also make direct reference how you were made aware of that position. So let's say you send it to your class. They should mention your name. I was made aware of this position by Dr. Aidoo, and I'm really interested. So name drop, right?
Okay.
So that sets a tone for that.
Right.
As well as when they say, who do I address it to? Well, if it's not a direct person, you can at least just say, hiring staff. I like Marriott for now. I'm sorry, it's in my head. But Marriott hiring staff, I was made aware of your summer internship by Philip Wilkerson. I'm really interested. I am a hospitality and tourism major. That's your introduction, right?
Right.
And then in the body paragraphs, not reinventing the wheel, that's where you make those direct references again. These are my experiences that match this position. And so you're either body, I say 1 or 2 paragraphs, you're making direct references of your relevant experiences in that body paragraphs. And then in the conclusion, I always like to say start in strong. So make mention of something unique about that organization. So for me, when I wrote George Mason, when I did my cover letter for George Mason, I said, George Mason is the most diverse public institution in the state of Virginia. Me, as an African-American male, diversity, equity, and inclusion is important to me. And I would love to contribute to an environment that it has a focus on diversity. So I made reference to something unique about that organization. And then I left a call to action. I would love an opportunity to interview. I could be reached at, and then that. So following that structure and customizing, there is no such thing as a general cover letter. I really say, like, when I work with a student and they say, can you look at my cover letter? I say, can you show me the job that it's for?
Right.
I mean, grammar, you can use Grammarly for grammar. We want to make sure that the context, beyond the grammar, the context is matching the job. So
the would-be employer wants to feel like you were thinking about them, right?
Yeah, you're courting them.
Right.
You're courting them. You're playing matchmaker. I literally say this. I really, just to not overcomplicate it. Think of it as like a matchmaker. I see what you want. I got what you want, and I'm telling you how. And it's very targeted. Like, I know exactly these things that you want. These are the exact things that I have, and this is the way I prove it in written form via your resume and cover letter.
Nothing worse than going to an interview and they start talking. You're like, "Oh, you're Marriott, right?"
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen students upload cover letters and they say, I'm so interested in this position and it's not even the same. It's not the right job.
That's right.
No customization.
Don't do that.
They're just doing upload, mass dumping these documents and not, I would say, and this is another advice, it is better, was it less is more? It is better to slow yourself down and say, oh my gosh, Philip, I applied to 100 jobs. But did you apply to 100 jobs of quality? It's better to even quarter that. Apply to 25 jobs where you slowed yourself down and customized it, rather than 100 and you didn't, because it's just a waste of your time. And then I like to say this last part about those documents. The purpose of those documents are not to get you a job. The purpose of those documents is to get you an interview. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like this, if you know your audience is just to get your interview, you're selling yourself for the interview. So you're writing about that connection to that position. And then next is in the interview is the opportunity to get your job. because then you're just reiterating the same thing. It's very redundant. You're
Right.
saying, you've seen what I can do on writing. Now I'm going to tell you what I can do in person via interview.
Verbally.
So
Right.
really, you're just saying the same thing. And they want to see that. That's what the market is. They want to see, are you able to articulate your skills and stuff in written form? And then when you get to an interview, are you able to articulate it out loud? And I've seen a lot of people that look great on paper, but can't talk.
That's
I've seen a
true.
lot of people that can talk, but they won't even get their foot in the door because they can't do it on paper. So you got to get good at selling yourself on paper as well as selling yourself in talking form. And then that's how you get a job or internship. Or
I think that is so important. Understanding it's a twofer kind of thing, right? I think that's so key. All right. So another thing that I think is really important for our students to know a bit more about is networking.
Yes.
So what is it? How can you do it or start it?
Yeah.
What are some tips? So I'm
right,
laying it all on you.
So let's lower the intimidation of networking and really just call it building relationships.
Okay.
Building
I like that.
Building authentic relationships. Honestly, you're doing it all the time. This is networking, right? Like, and so understand that when you lower it that way, then it's just basically you're building relationships to get information. You do not network to get a job. You network to, as I believe it, build. People are the greatest resource on this world, in this
Right.
the intellectual capital that people have, the information you get. So you're utilizing, when you're networking, utilizing your people resources, what I like to call social capital, right? Like there's money and then there's social. So what I tell students to do is then think about and how you invest in money over time, invest in relationships over time, because they'll yield stuff. Networking will not yield what you think it will right up front. Like when you meet someone, you don't get an opportunity right away. It's investment in that. So thinking about building good relationships, and over time they yield opportunities. Like you came to me later, said, "I'd love to be on a show." This is like years in the making, right? We connected in other ways. That's networking.
Right.
So another thing to think about is, since I say we're doing it all the time, understand that you already have an embedded network before you reach out to strangers. So, and I'm going to get the 5 F's wrong, but I'm just going to say this. You already have a network of friends, family, fellow classmates, former professors or employers, fellow alum, because you'll be an alum. And then I was thinking formalized organizations, right? Like if you're a member of a club or association. Embedded in those, you already have someone. So think about that. Reach out to people you already know in your circle, your tribe. Then going outside of that is then go outside when you introduce yourself. My main go-to is using LinkedIn or other ways, is before you reach out to new people outside your sphere of who you already know, do like we always do with friends. Find what you have in common and go from there. So when I tell someone to look up someone on LinkedIn, let's say you look up an alum that's in the same program as you. When you reach out to them on LinkedIn, you hit that connect button and add a note. Make reference. "Hi, I'm a fellow Mason alum like you. I love what you're doing. I see that you're doing great things via your LinkedIn profile. I'd love to connect with you just to learn about your experiences and ask questions," right? The thing there is that you're not asking for a job. You don't do that. Don't reach out to someone and initially go for the ask. You don't do that with friends. You'll say, "Hey, let's be friends. Here's a favor I want you to do for me." Like, you don't do that, right? You get to know people. And the best way to do that is just ask good questions. So when you're networking, ask good questions like, "I see that you're doing this. I see that do this. How did you do this? What did you do in school? What are employers looking for?" All that. That's the info point. Additionally, like when we have career fairs and such, the best way to do networking and feel comfortable is go into that situation prepared. So you shouldn't go into a career fair or a networking opportunity and go in there blind. I like to do that, like the joke. You ever see that meme where it's like, "Who gonna be there?" Like you going to a party, right? And they say, "Who gonna be there?" before you show up, right? Because I'm not gonna show up if I don't know nobody. Do the same thing with these large events. Look up who's coming ahead of time. Look them up on LinkedIn. Look them up on Handshake. Say, "I'm going to talk to these people. I'm going to ask them these questions," so that when you go and talk to them, You say, I was looking forward to meeting you today. Here's some questions I have for you, and show that you're prepared. And so preparation for networking works in both ways. And so that's networking, building relationships. And the only thing that I would say is follow-up is always good. If you meet someone at a fair or meet them online or whatever, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd like to stay in touch. What's the best way to do so? When can I, when would you like me to follow up with you? And then hold yourself accountable to that. Don't bother them, but say like, oh, it was great. You want me to, I'll hit you back in a month. And then you follow up in a month. So that's networking. I can go in a spiel and a whole thing about it, but lumping it together with it, it's so in depth, but that's like my.
I think it is really great that you just brought it all the way down to building relationships. Now, understandably, it's easier for some than for others.
Yeah.
But it's still doable. Yeah. And I think a key thing you said is don't start off with an ask. Yes. Just establish the connection, and then things progress from there. And
ask good questions and ask information. And I think you said right, like what I've noticed, I'm very extroverted. Surprise, surprise, but some people are more reserved. So I think preparation also helps with that, right? Like, people that don't want to go to these very big social situations. Well, if you know who's going to be there ahead of time, you have a game plan, you go talk to those 3 or 4 people you want to, then leave, either way. Or you could be like me, where I talk to the 1 or 2 people I wanted to, and then I stay and talk to more people.
Right.
Preparation helps both extroverts and introverts in regards to social situations. Preparing who you're going to talk to, preparing what you're going to ask. You prepared your questions today. It definitely helps. And so I think that those keys will help anyone when they're in situations and building relationships. And as I said earlier, just being yourself, not like, not realizing, not putting too much weight on this conversation. Like, oh my gosh, I had to have this conversation and get a job. No, like that makes me feel like very pressured, right? Like that's a lot of pressure. But if I say, wow, I'm going to just have these conversations to get information or just learn or get to know new people, it lowers that pressure. Like when I go to a career fair, I'm not going there to get a job. I'm going there to build new relationships and then follow up with those people I met. That's better than like, oh, if I go to this career fair, I need to get a job. If I don't get a job, I'm a failure. No, that's a lot of pressure. So just bring it down to, I'm going to these events just to build relationships and meet new people. Right. Should be good. Or feel better, feel more comfortable.
And I guess it's safe to also say that as with building all kinds of relationships, some work out and some don't. Don't take it personally, right?
Yes. That's 100%. And also, I'm gonna flip it too. Understand that you bring value. So when you're doing it, I always end with like gratitude, like, thank you so much for talking to me. If there's anything I could do to help you, let me know. But also understand that you're confident in your skills. Like, I know how to do podcasting or whatever. So let the students know that they already bringing skills. They're bringing youth, they're bringing enthusiasm. Maybe some of them, like, they know how to do social media. Some they already planned events before. They planned events for their clubs. So understand that they hold value in these interactions. So like, be confident in yourself when you're doing these opportunities. Know what you're good at, know what you're skilled at, so that when you're doing these conversations, like you're like introducing yourself.
I think that is so key, because we all at some stage go through this sense of, do I have what they need? What do I bring to the table? So I'm so glad you said that. You already have some stuff. And let them not forget that. I'm not in an arrogant way, but in a confident way, I guess we would say. But that's so key. Thank you for saying that. So you did say that, your role is this, I guess, trifecta. You're dealing with students, you're dealing with the employers or would-be employers, and of course, your university partners. So I have a big question for you. Give us 2 or 3 things that employers are looking for when they're looking at our students. What do they want?
Skills. Oh, flat out skills.
Okay.
Like skills and relevant experience.
All right.
And skills that are both tangible and I'm getting away from the word soft skills. We're gonna call them strong skills, but the articulation of both. So like well-rounded. So like, not just relying on, classroom experience, but like actual relevant experience and building those skills. So I tell students reverse engineer and get those experiences in a myriad of ways. Like, don't think, oh, I was waiting for this class to learn how to do this software. Teach yourself, use LinkedIn Learning, so skills. And then other things like those intangibles, customer service, communication skills, all those, you build those up with life experiences, being a leader, leadership. Those are things that people want. They want leadership skills. Well, join a club and organization and be a student leader. So I would say those two main things is relevant experiences that you can articulate and real skills that you can prove. Either you can prove tangibly with the, how to do a software, or you can prove it with a story, being able to tell the story where you used it. So those two things, 100%.
Okay, skills, relevant experiences.
Yes, 100%. And your relevant experience doesn't always have to be a paid job. Get outside of that. It could be an internship, it could be a job, it could be a volunteer, it could be study abroad. You can build relevancy as long as you articulate it. Like, I volunteered at the soup kitchen, but when I volunteered at the soup kitchen, I organized the 10 other volunteers. Well, that's delegation, that's leadership, and that's planning. That's a relevant experience. I didn't get paid for it, but I have the experience.
Right.
So
that is so important.
Yeah.
It does not have to be paid to be relevant.
No, it does. I love it. It does not have to be paid to be relevant.
Okay, you can patent that.
Yeah,
trademark, whatever.
I bet someone already said that, but that's exactly
I bet they did too.
It does not have to be paid to be relevant.
It doesn't have to. That's a cool one. How early should students be looking for two things? Either an internship or a post-graduation job?
All right, so internship or any experiences, it's never too early. Leverage if you already had experiences in high school, you can use those in your resume. Hit the ground running. But as I said, let's get outside the thing. Like, if you're a freshman and you didn't get an internship, don't trip. Join a club or organization your freshman year, get experience that way. So I think the main thing we want to say is, while you're at Mason, overall, the whole time at Mason, you should have at least 2 meaningful experiences during your time outside the classroom. So you should not graduate and not do internship, job, volunteer, anything. You should have at least 2 meaningful experiences that are relevant to your industry before you graduate. Now, reverse engineering, because industry by industry, about how to look for a job. Certain windows are longer. I mean, from what I heard, jobs in the government take longer, background checks. So you probably should start that process 6 months to a year before you graduate. Certain industries are a couple months out. So it's industry by industry. I think historically, or typically from the students I work with, at least the beginning of that last semester is when you should start, applying or start tightening up your stuff. Because if you want to wait till you walk across the stage, then you're probably not going to start your job until like September, right? The turnaround time from completing the application to hiring is probably 3 to 6 months. So with that being said, for that post-grad one, probably start your last senior year or that last semester of your senior year to start applying, understanding that it's a process and a long time. But if you're going into the government, it's probably start a little bit longer because
that's good to know.
And it's more detailed. And then when is it too early? It's never too early to get an internship. Well, let's over focus on that. Like, your meaningful experiences as a freshman should be not just internship or bust. It should be anything. Get involved in campus, get outside the class. And if you're a commuter student, which I understand we have a large adult learner, like I said, don't overfixate that it has to be club or organization. Maybe it could be volunteer as well. You just need to get some kind of experience outside the classroom.
Right. Okay, that is very helpful. I think one of the things that we do well in our school is that we require the practicum and the internship. So we have baked in to our students' experience with us those 2 requirements, but I do tell students, and I know other faculty do also, that take advantage of all the other stuff. Like you said, yes, you do those 2 for your required courses, but do that volunteer thing, whatever opportunity that you can take advantage of just to build up your experience base and also your resume, of course. So thank you for that. Okay. I want to thank you because, and I know we could go on for much longer,
Yeah.
but you know, maybe we'll do this again, some other questions for another interview. But as we say goodbye, what one burning thing have you always wanted to tell students, you know, as you have interacted with many students and, you know, again, industry, like outside of all the things we've talked about?
I don't know. I was about to go back to the thing I talked about was like, do not wait, reverse engineer and build your own experiences. You know, I think
Okay.
one of the biggest things I've heard from all that's kind of like not a pet peeve, but just kind of like a sad notion is like, they're always waiting for someone to give them their experiences. Like, I didn't get an internship, or you know, like I don't have the skills yet. And I was like, but with all the resources we have, you know, LinkedIn Learning, like you can teach yourself. Like, if you want to do social media, teach yourself. You know, if you want a podcast, teach yourself. You want to do the show that you're doing like now, teach yourself. And then use that to garner the experiences. So like, if you're in a creative space or not, whatever, find out what you want to do and say, what in regards to my agency can I get that relevant experience without an organization? Like, if you want to write, you want to be a writer, you don't need a publishing company to write. If you want to be a filmmaker, now you don't need a film, you don't need a studio to make a film, you don't get a camera. So for all your students, they're like, oh, I want to go into marketing, I want to go into event planning, I want to go into all this stuff. Like, don't wait to get a class assignment. Don't wait till like you have to get an internship to build that experiences. Say, what can I do in my community? What can I do around me? Reverse engineer it to say, to build this skill set. And then it kind of like it manifests itself because like you're doing the actions, you're learning it, you feel confident in it, you have something to speak to when you talk to people. So that's my main thing. Take agency, find experiences. If you can't find them, make them yourself. Make your own experiences, make your own content, make your own thing, which you can leverage to market yourself to formalize places like internships and jobs. So
I think
that'll be my main thing. That'd be my main soapbox. Like, oh, I was waiting for this class. Like, why are you waiting for a class? You can use YouTube or use LinkedIn Learning, you know? And I understand access to resources. Like that example that I had about the camera, Philip, I don't have access to a nice camera. And I understand that not everyone has money. There's Star Labs, there's Star Lab on campus where you can rent a camera. So be investigative, look at the resources that you can, like I can rent a camera. I don't have to use my own camera, you know, or I don't have the nice Adobe Photoshop. I'm pretty sure the lab has one where you can use it on there as a Mason student. When you use your Mason card, you have access to a lot of stuff. So, you know, use your cell phone and do things, you know, like you got things, you just got to think creatively. That's my main thing.
Well, thank you. I think that is key and valid, and yes, don't wait, I guess would be our closing tagline. Don't wait. Make it happen. Create. Don't wait. We're out here creating all kinds of taglines.
Yeah, don't wait, create. You don't need to be paid to get the, you know, we got all kinds of slogans here. You know what I mean?
Yes, we do.
Don't wait to create.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Okay. So thank you so much, Philip. Folks, this is why I really wanted to talk to Philip, because I knew he would have all these helpful tips and ideas. So thank you again, Philip. Thank you, everyone. I hope this is helpful for you. And obviously, you can reach out to Philip. Can you tell us what your email address is?
Yeah, it's P Wilkers, so PWILKERSO. No, sorry, I was about to do my whole name. PWILKERS, P Wilkers at GMU.edu. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I make a joke with people. I said, I love to meet everyone one-on-one. If you write me an email that's a full thesis, I'm not going to respond back to you. Make an appointment to see me one-on-one. Okay. But if you got yes or no questions, hit me up anytime. All
right. So there you have it. Reach out to Philip, and I'm sure he will be able to help you even more than he has with this interview. And everybody, until the next time with In the Know with Dr. Aidoo, I hope you take great care of yourselves. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at GMU_SRTM. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.